We've just got another wave of leaks for College Football 27, and this is starting to become a pattern. Over the last couple of days, multiple posts from different people claiming to be early play testers have surfaced online, and then shortly after, several of those posts were deleted or removed, and then later uploaded again. Now obviously take all of this with a grain of salt until EA officially announces things themselves, but a lot of these leaks are starting to overlap with each other, and some of the details also line up with things EA has previously hinting at wanting to improve. Now I didn't want to just jump out there too quick with these leaks until I kind of talked around a little bit to maybe try to clarify them a little bit more, but again, take them with a grain of salt. But if these are accurate, it's shaping up to be a very dynasty focused year. We're talking NIL and recruiting, coaching carousel upgrades, visual improvements to recruits, player health management, new presentation features, more equipment customization, and even some small gameplay details have started to leak out as well. So let's talk about what we just found out. The biggest leak, or rumor we'll call it right now, that's going around is that NIL reportedly is being added into Dynasty Mode recruiting, and if this is true, this is a massive change that a lot of us have been asking for. And for those that don't like this, I understand, but NIL is such a big part of college football now that this will make the mode a lot more authentic. Apparently what's being leaked is that there's some kind of NIL point or budget system tied into recruiting, and according to the leaks, 4- and 5-star recruits will usually require some type of an NIL package or money to seriously compete for them, which honestly makes complete sense for modern college football. But what's also interesting is even the lower rated recruits supposedly will be more interested in your school if you invest NIL into them, which makes sense. You just don't need to go after them with NIL the same way you would a 4- and 5-star. But if you do invest NIL into a 3-star, let's say, it might put you way ahead of everybody else because other schools might not be willing to do that. So do you save your NIL money for just the elite talent? Do you spread it around to build depth? Do powerhouse schools now become even stronger because they naturally have more resources? That part right there is what I'm personally curious about, because this could either make Dynasty way more immersive, or it could become one of those systems that people cheese immediately. And I think the balance for this is going to matter a lot, because if NIL just becomes a pay whoever the most money and you instantly win recruiting battles, that could get old pretty fast. But if it's implemented more like a risk-reward management system where you really have to choose how to build your program, then honestly this could end up being one of the biggest additions Dynasty Mode has had since this game has returned. And another reason I do believe these leaks to be true is because, especially with NIL, we got some reports a couple of weeks ago that EA was adding more NIL to the game. We heard about it more from the Road to Glory standpoint, but if NIL is something that they are putting more effort into, then it makes sense that Dynasty Mode would be the other place that would be getting a big change with that. Now, another leak that honestly made me laugh a little bit, but also gave me some hope. Apparently, the recruits are supposed to look way better this year. And if you've played Dynasty over these last 2 games, you already know exactly why people are excited about this, because there were definitely some weird recruit combinations in College Football 25 and 26. There were some questionable hairstyles, some weird color combinations on certain players, and sometimes recruits just straight up did not look like modern college athletes. So supposedly, according to the leaks, EA has improved the recruit generation significantly this year to make players look more authentic and realistic overall. And this is very important because details matter in football games. And this is also something that I've heard EA talk about in the past that they wanted to continually get better with each year as the machine learning gets better. Now, I do want to temper expectations a little bit here. I highly doubt every generated player suddenly looks perfect. There's probably going to still be some weird recruits here or there. But honestly, if the average recruiting class just looks more believable, that actually matters more than some people may think, because Dynasty immersion is heavily tied to presentation. When your future Heisman winning quarterback looks like a completely randomized create-a-player experiment, it kind of takes you out of the experience. Again, details matter. And honestly, this leak also lines up with EA seemingly putting more emphasis on immersion this year in general. And if you care about the future of football games and want honest breakdowns, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on, because we're going to be covering this for the entire cycle of these games' releases. And we also cover the updates that come after as well. And this is the type of details and realism that us football gamers have been asking for, because another major Dynasty leak involves the coaching carousel. Apparently, coaching carousel is finally getting some much needed attention, and if you've played the previous versions of Dynasty, you already know this system had issues. There were problems with logic, job movement, offers, you name it. Sometimes coaches barely moved, sometimes powerhouse programs hired weird candidates. But according to the leaks, EA has made some improvements to those systems, and now there's supposedly a money-based mechanic tied to the coordinators similar to the NIL recruiting system. I'm not sure if it's all under the same system or if it's two separate things, but it sounds like from multiple different leaks that have been very consistent is that there's going to be a way to kind of spread these NIL points or money points around to not only coaches and recruiting, but even supposedly upgrading facilities and things like that. Again, take this with a grain of salt because EA has not spoke on this specifically yet, and we should be finding out a lot about it over the next month. So again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. But based on stuff EA has said in the past and based on a lot of the same overlapping information and rumors that we've been hearing, I do believe a lot of this stuff is likely true. Supposedly now you can poach coordinators from other schools because of this money system, and schools can also poach coaches away from you. Honestly, that sounds awesome. That's real college football, and if done correctly, it could create way more unique dynasty stories naturally. And again, the details matter, so this is the kind of stuff we want to see. Now, my concern though is whether the system has enough depth, because features like this always sound amazing on paper, but if there's no real logic behind how coaches progress, leave, or negotiate, then it could end up feeling shallow pretty quickly. Still though, this is exactly the kind of immersion-focused stuff dynasty players like us have been asking for. Now, this next leak is probably one older fans are going to love hearing. The Heisman Trophy ceremony is reportedly returning. And this is something that hasn't really existed in depth since the PS2 era, I believe. Apparently, the Heisman finalists will show up in suits, they'll have their stats on the screen, and then of course the winner is announced. Now, we don't know exactly how detailed this presentation will be yet. Honestly, that's pretty important in my opinion, because there's a difference between a quick 20-second cutscene and a genuinely immersive awards presentation. But regardless, this is still a really cool addition that I think most people are going to be happy to see back if this is all true. This could also be really cool in Road to Glory as well. I don't think they would only put this in Dynasty. It would make sense to have it for both modes. Now, this other leak here is even more believable than some of the other stuff I covered because they are supposedly adding in a player health and practice rep management system. And if you've played the Madden franchise over recent years, you already know where this is heading. You know how this works. This has been in Madden for a few years now. Apparently, you'll need to manage practice reps and player wear and tear throughout the season, which makes complete sense for college football the same way it would for the NFL. Roster management should matter, depth should matter, again, the details should matter, and this is a very important part to running a football program. Now, depending on how aggressive the system is, this could either become a really strategic feature or it could be something people turn off and get annoyed with. We've seen in Madden sometimes this hasn't worked out so well, so they do have to get it right. If it's tuned correctly, it could add another really important layer to Dynasty decision making, especially for late in the season. Now let's talk about some more equipment leaks. For those of you that have been around my channel for a while, we've talked about this all year long. Equipment has been a hot topic, and we've already found out about certain equipment pieces that are going to be in the game. And I know some people don't care about this stuff. I mean, if you don't, then just skip forward in the video. But honestly, a lot of the community does because once again, I'm going to repeat, details do matter. And we already know things like the one leg sleeves and the hanging mouthpieces are going to be returning because Mutt Leaks, who has been a very credible leaker for years, has already revealed this. But now there's talk about more things, including improved cropped jerseys, new visors, branded towels, and just more customization overall. Too much stuff lines up across multiple leakers. The equipment guy on Twitter has even come out and said there's going to be a lot of new stuff this year. Trust me, we're going to be getting a lot of new equipment in College Football 27. I will put anything on that. And modern football games need better equipment customization, especially college football, because presentation and player identity matters. Likeness is more than just a player's face or their hair. It's how they look on the field. Now, gameplay-wise, we've heard a few things over the past few months. We know there's going to be some new mechanics, but we haven't heard a ton about gameplay just yet. But apparently, what multiple of the play testers have said is that they feel that what they have played feels a little closer to 25 than 26. And depending who you are, that either sounds really good or it sounds concerning, because College Football 25 was generally viewed as more explosive, more responsive, faster paced, more arcade-like in certain areas, while 26 felt a little more controlled and toned down in some ways. So if 27 leans back to the 25 feel, I think a lot of players will probably enjoy that, but my biggest concern honestly is going to be defense, because in both iterations of the game, defense has been pretty tough. There's a lot of dropped interceptions, there's a lot of bad pursuit, there's a lot of zone play that leaves a lot to be desired in terms of how they attack the ball and how they react to the ball in the air. Obviously, offense is fun, but if the game becomes too explosive, again, even more so than it was last year, that can get frustrating for a lot of people really fast. So hopefully, if it is going back to a more 25 feel, feel in terms of responsiveness. I would just hope that they also buff the defense, because I do think that's an area that needs work. And if they buff the defense and they create the nice balance there, then I think people will be happy with that. Now, aside from all of that, there are a couple of other light rumors floating around about dynamic weather and halftime shows. Now, these, in my opinion, are much less confirmed than the other stuff we've talked about, because these are really more so just rumors, but they're coming from a few places that I think may have a little bit of insider knowledge. So definitely take these with even more of a grain of salt than everything I previously mentioned, but it does make sense that they would do this, and I'll tell you why. Halftime shows already exist in Madden. They were added last year, and typically, even when you go back to many years ago with the old NCAA series, a lot of times things came to Madden the year before they came to the college game, so that tracks. If they went through all the work to put halftime shows in Madden, it would be dumb of them to not also now use that same system and drag it over to college and make the college presentation better. Why would you only use it in one game? And we've seen with both of these games that they're going to share a lot of the same features because they're going to work identical in both games anyway. And as far as dynamic weather, EA has already talked about wanting to put this back into the game, especially last year when they upgraded the weather across the board in Madden. They said that dynamic weather is the next thing they wanted to look into. So they're probably going to be adding that to Madden this year, and they're just going to probably drag it over to college as well. So I do believe these rumors because it just lines up with everything we already have heard. Now, I want to know, out of everything in this video, what do you think is actually the biggest feature here? Not the marketing headline, but the thing that could actually genuinely make the game a lot better. And if you want to know about the other leaks that we have pretty much confirmed at this point, but were not included in this video, make sure you check out the previous video right here on the screen.